So question number three was, should the money site also theme mirror the GMB products and service categories? Thanks. Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And I found that if you have multiple categories for your GMB that are and they're relevant, obviously you don't want to be adding on non-relevant categories to your GMB. But yeah, there is something to be said for that. I've started playing around with that a bit myself because with tree service contractors, in the past, I had created separate silos, like tree service being like the top level keyword, but I would set up separate silos for like tree trimming, for example, and tree removal, right? So those would be two separate silos, but those all really fall under tree service, right? Tree service is the silo, and in tree trimming and tree removal and stump grinding and a whole bunch of other services kind of fall all underneath that. They're synonymous. They're all part of the same set, keyword set, essentially. But then there is a separate category in GMB called arborist and tree surgeon. And so that's a whole nother category where you can, there's different services that can kind of fall underneath of that. So I started playing with that actually with some of my own assets. And when I changed even some of my longest term projects or the projects that I've had for a long, long time, I went back and reworked silo structure. And I've seen significant improvement on some of the organic rankings by mirroring the category structure that I got in the GMB. Now, keep in mind, these are sites that have GMBs as well. Like, in other words, they have locations that are associated with Google My Business. So I found that to be actually very, very powerful. I think it's going to vary though, because typically you can get a lot more granular with the type of silo structure and categories and such on your own website. But, I think there is something to be said, again, from some preliminary testing on my own to kind of mirror or model the category structure that Google My Business can give you. And again, I've just started kind of messing with that within the last few weeks on my own, and I've seen some significant improvements in organic ranking from modeling the GMB category structure that I have on the GMBs. It didn't really help much with maps ranking, which is interesting, probably because that was already kind of baked into the GMB itself, right? The actual Google My Business profile. But as far as the organic rankings, that and among some other things that I've been doing, I've noticed that when I kind of simplified my silo structure and got rid of tree trimming and tree removal silos, which are two separate silos, and moved them all underneath kind of like a flat site structure, which means they're all part of tree service, then I've saw a significant improvement in organic rankings. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that was my attempt at it. So you want to comment on that before I move on?
Yeah, I don't see how closely you can theme mirror the GMB, especially the services, because interestingly, Google messes around with services. You'll see them come in and out. So all of a sudden you'll have a long list of services that weren't necessarily added by other users, but they are recommended services, or there'll be changes and added by Google. And then you'll see that they've been extracted from there, that they're no longer there. So it's simply to me, because I don't know, I don't work in GMB. It's the AI going in there and taking a look on which one fits best, and it's giving it categories and taking away to see which one would be like the best recipe for that GMB. It's really interesting how that's taking place right now. And I don't think like trying to mimic that on the website or theme mirror that on the website every time that Google decides to give you a change is not going to make any sense. To me, I mean, you can go deeper and broader on your money site and add more information, but not necessarily the way that the GMB gives it to you. Although focusing on the products does have a great effect on and the categories, by the way, does have a great effect on not only organic, but some map rankings, depending on how necessary that category is to, I don't know if that even makes sense, depending on how well that category fits your niche. Because sometimes there's a hard fit in there. You get in a niche where there's no exact fit.
Yeah, and to be clear, when I was talking about categories, as far as the services, yeah, and I've noticed because I started flip-flopping which URL I put in the website field of a GMB. If I had in the past, I always used the money site URL for the website and the GMB listing, right, in the GMB profile, and then I would publish the GMB website and often put that in the appointment URL field. And not everybody has that. I understand that. But more recently, I've swapped it out. And even if there's a money site for a GMB, project or a project that I'm working on, a business, a client, a lead gen asset, whatever, even if I have a money site, which most, 95% of them do have a money site, I've been putting the GMB website URL in the website field in the Google My Business profile, and in putting my money site page in the appointment URL field. And I talk very specifically about why I do that in the mastermind. I'm not going to talk about it here, but what I found is that Google pulls a lot of those services in when you go into your Google My Business dashboard and you see that there was suggestions made or edits made to the services, which is what Marco was talking about. And you'll see they're like, it's in like an orange text.
Yeah, something like that.
You can either accept all of the edits or accept all the changes, or you can click edit, and then it will allow you to go through and delete some of them or actually change the wording and all of that. I've noticed that when I had the main website URL as the Google My Business website, like in other words, in the website field of the profile, then it would pull keywords from that page that it was linked to. But then if I swapped it out and put the GMB website URL as the website for the GMB profile, then it would go find keywords that were listed on. And sometimes, usually there's overlap anyways, but I found that I think what Google's doing is actually looking at the page that is linked to from that website URL field and pulling entities or keywords essentially from that page. But it's interesting because, as Marco said, sometimes there will even be suggested services that haven't been mentioned on the page, which is interesting. And I found that to be interesting. It's not always the case, but sometimes they'll be in there. And you'll go back and look at the page and be like, well, where the hell did this come from? It's not mentioned on the page. So, but yeah, I was talking about more on the category level, not the actual services. But it is interesting to see that how Google itself will just come in and start adding different suggested services to underneath a category in your Google My Business profile.